Hello, everybody. My name is Laser Dave, or David Stevens, and today we're going to cover a live demonstration on glass engraving from Trotec Laser. A few things up front, just so you know. Make sure you can post your questions during this event, and they will be buffered until the end of the course, and then I will answer them as we go through them. There will be a 10-second delay between the time that you post the questions and we receive it. So take a look at everything. If you have any questions, again, post them during the event. And now let's go to Matt Pung for the seminar.
Hello, my name is Matt Pung. I'm a Trotec Regional Sales Manager for Michigan. Welcome to the first Trotec Virtual Third Thursday. This month we're going to be discussing glass engraving. If you'd like to connect with Trotec on social media, we've got a lot of resources out there on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. As part of the presentation, if you just want to scan the QR code, it'll hook you right up with our different social media sites. Today, we're going to discuss a little bit about the different types of glass and glass engraving, different processing techniques, the rotary attachment for doing glassware as far as drinking. And then lastly, we're going to go through a little bit of application inspiration, different things you can do with glass engraving. Majority of glass engraving is going to be processed on a CO2 laser system. The CO2 laser reacts really well with glass, and it mostly is going to be doing a surface marking. That would be done with our Speedy series of lasers. Sometimes with the glass mirrors, we can also use a fiber laser system, which we're going to be talking a little bit more about later. Different types of glass applications. Drinking glasses, champagne flutes, drinkware is going to be a big part of glass engraving, but also different types of mirror engraving, awards, different types of decorations and interior design are also popular glass applications. There are several different ways to engrave glass. Today we're going to focus mostly on lasers, but there is also a couple other ways. Sand carving is one of those with a sandblaster, and also hand etching with some sort of mechanical tool like a Dremel laser can also be used. Some of the advantages of the laser is going to be the quick setup time, the repeatability, and the fact that you don't need any additional media in order to do that. The glass is just heated by the laser. We get microfracturing on the surface, which gives it a frosted white look. Whereas with sandblasting, you do need the media, the sand, to actually etch the glass. You've got dust and that type of thing that you have to deal with as well. The other advantages of the laser, you don't have to worry about breaking. If you're doing mechanical engraving, like with a Dremel tool, it's possible that you end up going too deep and cracking or breaking the glass. The laser is just a surface etch, so you eliminate that possibility. As opposed to sandblasting, you don't need a template. In fact, the laser is actually a good tool to use in addition to a sandblaster, because you can cut the templates on the laser, get very fine detail, and then actually give a deep engrave with the sandblasting. I mentioned earlier that the fiber lasers can be used for mirror engraving. The wavelength of the fiber laser actually goes right through clear glass, so it doesn't affect it at all. But it does react well with the backing on the mirrors. So with a mirror engraving, you can set it in there face up, you engrave down through the top with the fiber laser, and it removes the backing. So it makes it so it's clear all the way through, and it'll allow you to do a backfill with different colors or with black to give different effects on the front of that mirror. This is a movie about the mirror engraving technique. Go ahead and watch. This is another Trotec DIY. This is part of our website, and it'll walk you step by step through how we engrave the mirrors with this decoration and how to do the setup, what type of laser we actually used. When you're engraving glass, the quality of the glass really makes a big difference on how well it engraves with the laser. Generally, a lower quality glass with a lower lead content will actually engrave better on the laser. The reason that is we want to minimize the heat effect of the laser on the glass. With a higher lead content, like lead crystal, it tends to absorb that heat and you get fracturing. So with a lower quality glass, we get a better frosting, less chipping and fracturing of the glass. So we're going to walk through a couple different techniques for engraving glass on the laser. One thing we normally do, especially if we're using the rotary attachment, is remove the nose cone, and that just gives us a little bit more clearance. The other reason to do that is if we're engraving something with an edge or a lip, like serving trays, we want to make sure that that nose cone isn't going to crash either into the rotary or to the edge of your object. So it's just an added precaution to make sure you don't crash the head of the laser. So the first processing technique that we want to discuss is just bare glass. So we're not doing anything to the glass itself. We're just adjusting how the laser is going to engrave it. We're trying to minimize the effect of the heat on the surface of the glass so we don't get fracturing and chipping. The way we normally do that at Trotec is we adjust our graphic down to a 70 or 80% gray rather than a flat black. And then we use one of our dithering or halftone settings within our print driver to spread the dots out. So a 70% gray is going to spread the pulses of the laser out quite a bit, and it's going to spread the heat out a bit so we don't get fracturing and we get better results on the glass. We tend to use either ordered dithering or Jarvis. It's more of a personal preference on how you like the look of the glass with either of those settings. But again, we're going to use a 70 or an 80% gray, and we're going to use a halftone to spread the pulses of the laser out. And this gives us a really good effect without having to do anything to the glass. Another option is to use a damp paper towel, and a lot of people use this option. So you get your paper towel damp. You don't want it soaking wet, but you do want it pretty wet. And then you're going to place that on your piece of glass. You want to make sure that there's no bubbles in the paper towel. You need it to be very flat. If there are bubbles, when you engrave with the laser, you'll actually see those spots where the bubbles are. It'll engrave a little bit differently. But again, with this processing option, we're trying to minimize the heat effect of the laser on the glass. So the wet paper towel is going to cool the glass so we don't get fracturing, and it does give us a really nice white engraving. For this process, we're going to disable our air assist because it tends to dry out the paper towel, and then we don't get the effect that we want. After you're done engraving, any residue from the paper towel easily wipes off. It's just a couple extra steps because you're wetting that paper towel down and then you're having to clean it up afterwards. This is another DIY on our website. If you want to scan the QR code, it'll allow you to see step by step how we did this engraving with a damp paper towel, the laser we used, and the settings we used. Another option very similar to the wet paper towel is application tape. So it's a low tack mask that we used on this glass. And you're going to put that on the glass, make sure you've got no bubbles, and you're going to engrave through that mask. Again, this is going to absorb some of the heat, so you get less heat effect on the glass. And it also works pretty well, although you do get a little bit more of a gray engraving rather than a bright white that you can with a damp paper towel or the bare glass engraving. Afterwards, sometimes you do have a little bit of adhesive residue from that mask that you have to clean off. So again, it's another step at the front end and then a step on the back end with additional cleanup. The last one we're going to talk about as far as laser engraving is dish soap. A lot of people use this one, and basically you use a sponge or something else to put a thin layer of liquid dish soap on your glass. And again, it's a liquid. It's going to dissipate the heat a little bit of the laser. And then the cleanup afterward is very easy. You just rinse the soap off with water, and you get a nice engraving on the glass. The Blazer Orange from Ikonics is a mask that they use for sandblasting. It's a laser safe mask. So with this material, we're going to use the laser in conjunction with the sandblaster. So we would put the Blazer Orange on our glass. We'd engrave with the laser our graphic, and that is going to give us a nice template for the sandblaster. So we can get really nice detailed engraving. Then we can use the sand carver in order to get very deep engraving if we want to. Where the laser is not going to go deep, the sand carver can. Another thing you can do with the laser, which is kind of nice, that you're not going to be able to do with mechanical engraving, is photo engraving with the laser. Again, we're going to use a grayscale rasterization. We generally will use 70% black, again, to spread that heat out. We'll use a 500 DPI, so we're still going to get good detail on the photo. With photo engraving, we are going to use ordered dithering. It just gives us better results, more recognizable photo than some of the other halftones. But the laser will allow us to get good photo results even on glass. This is another video about glass engraving techniques. It's going to go over some of the same ones we just talked about and just give you a better visual of that. So go ahead and watch. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the rotary attachment. Most lasers out there, you have a rotary attachment available. Trotec does have a few advantages. One thing that's nice on the Trotec, we do have a tiltable rotary. We offer both rotaries with rollers and with cones. Cones are nice for drinkware, things with a taper on them, things with handles on them. And then we also offer a combination rotary where you get both the cones and the rollers, and you can switch those out depending on the application. So tiltable rotary, it's available on all of our Speedy systems and as well as the SP500 from the 300, 360, and 400. The Speedy 100 does not offer a tilt adjustment, but the tilt adjustment allows you to adjust for drinkware that has a taper to it. So wine glasses, as well as pint glasses that have a taper on it, you're going to be able to adjust that tilt to keep it flat for the laser, to keep your drinkware in focus for the laser engraving. This is just a chart that shows the different types of rotaries that are available on the Trotec systems. As you can see, the Speedy 100, you've got cones. It's not tiltable, but all the rest of them, you have all the different options available. This video is going to show how you would change from rollers to cones if you did have a Trotec combination rotary. When you are engraving with the rotary, you're able to engrave along the entire circumference of round and conical objects. So you're not limited by the focus of the laser. So you can do full wraps on drinkware and vases and things like that. You're going to type in the diameter of the drinkware, and our rotary is automatically going to turn it at the right rate in order to give you the best engraving results. One thing to note, and this is on pretty much any laser systems, you need to make sure that the laser is off, completely off before you plug in the rotary, and also before you unplug the rotary, or you can damage the electronics. If you're engraving a glass with a handle on the rotary with a Trotec laser, it does make things a little bit tricky. You need to make sure you know which way the rotary is rotating. With the Trotecs, it rotates towards the back of the machine. So you need to make sure that the handle is clear of the laser head as it moves towards the back of the machine. At that point, we can clamp it in place, and then we can use the job control software to position our graphic on the glassware. We also need to make sure that the rotary has enough circumference for that handle to clear underneath. With the Trotec rotaries, we can adjust the cones and rollers up and down to give you more clearance underneath, especially for large drinkware like the one in the photo here. Within job control, we can then choose the position of our graphic using our WYSIWYG or what you see is what you get function. This is just showing you the option in job control, the what you see is what you get. And it's going to show us the graphic, how it's oriented, so you can make sure that you place it properly on the drinkware. And we can do that using the red dot pointer. Normally, I will use minimize to job size when I print the graphic over, and it will shrink the graphic when it comes into job control just down to the size of the graphic itself, not the artboard in CorelDRAW or Illustrator. So then we can use the red dot pointer to place that in the center of where we want the engraving to be on the glassware, and we can snap our graphic right to it using job control, and we can see what it's going to look like using the WYSIWYG function. One other thing on this, we can move the red dot then to the side of our engravable area to make sure that we're not going to strike our handle, and we can see then in the job control software with the crosshair where exactly that red dot pointer is and see that we're clear of the handle. This is going to be another video talking a little bit more about this setup. With a visual, it might be a little easier to understand how we're setting up the graphic on something with a handle. So go ahead and watch. And this is one more video here, again, walking through setup for the rotary attachment. And you can see in this one, we're using damp paper towel for the glass engraving. So some customers want the look of glass, but they don't want to pay for glass. So there are several options that Trotec offers in our materials line that gives you a clear material that looks like glass, that engraves really well, cuts really well in the laser, but is a little less expensive. So we've got a whole line of acrylics called Tro Glass. We have it in clear. We have it in with different finishes like gloss or matte. We also have different colors as well as optical acrylic and our Tro Glass LED for backlighting and side lighting. So this is just a picture of some different applications to give you ideas for using the laser for engraving glass. As you can see on the candle holder there, they've used some gold rub and buff. Once you engrave with the laser, that material works really well to do a gold infill, and they've got several different colors to give you different looks that look very nice. Different types of glass here. You can see the Christmas balls. Those are a little harder to set up with the rotary, but it allows you to engrave those all the way around if you wanted to. Thank you for attending the first virtual Trotec Third Thursday. Please leave any questions you have in the comments, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for that seminar, and I want to thank all the marketing team for putting that together. We have some questions here now that I want to go ahead and cover, and we're going to go through them each one at a time here. The first one was, will the mirrors look the same if you use the CO2 and engrave from the back of the mirror? That is a great question, and the answer is no. When you engrave mirrors with a CO2 laser, you're going to get a frosted effect. When you engrave with a fiber laser, it produces a clear effect or a complete transparency. So yes, you can engrave with a CO2 laser on the backside of a mirror and produce a contrast, but it's more of a frosted effect than a clear effect. And that's really the difference between the two with the CO2 as well as a fiber laser. The next question coming up here is, how do you adjust images to 70% black? This is done in your graphic design software. So just changing the shade of grayscale on your screen. So when you change it to a different percentage of grayscale on your color palette, it should tell you that percentage of black. So a dark shade of gray would be a percentage of black. It's basically the same thing. So different shades from your color palette is how you want to adjust those shade scales. And the laser will interpret these grayscales as a halftone pattern and then pulse it correctly into the glass. Next question coming up here, 1.5 versus 2-inch lens, any advantage? This is another great question. With glass, because you're fracturing the surface of that glass, it is imperative that you use the smallest beam possible. So if you have a 1.5-inch lens, it is going to produce better quality than a 2.0-inch lens. A 2-inch lens works it works very well as well with the glass, where the 1.5 will produce a clear advantage over the 2-inch lens if you have that. But a 2-inch is pretty good. And you go beyond that to like a 2.5 or 4, you're really going to start to have a lot of fracturing problems when using those lenses. So if you have a 1.5, stick with it. If you have a 2-inch only, that's going to be just fine. But beyond that, I don't recommend it. Other color fill options, paint fill was mentioned in the mirror. What about Surmark for glass or tile and color fills besides rub and buff? Really, when it comes to color fill, there's really no problem. The one thing I like about glass is after it's engraved, you can rub the paint and colors. Inks, I've used rub and buff, I've used paint, I've used oil-based paints, acrylic-based paints. It really does not matter. Now, the Surmark compound on the glass, I've not had a lot of luck with. Some of the newer stuff coming out, they're saying is a little better, but I haven't had a chance to try it. It seems to be very, very sensitive on the glass, and so I don't personally recommend it, but it may be worth a try. Let's see. How does all this apply to engraving on a CO2? Well, everything we just covered was engraving on a CO2. I mean, ultimately, a CO2 laser is the laser that we used on 99% of these applications. CO2 laser is the premier application or wattage or type of laser when engraving on glass. A fiber laser will not engrave glass, but it will remove the mirror coating and it will remove paint coatings. Or a CO2 laser is what was used for all the applications that you just saw. Speedy 100 settings. This is going to depend on the wattage of your Speedy 100, the type of material, the type of glass. Typically, a good rule of thumb for settings on something like a Speedy 100 would be at full power. And you're going to be between 30 to 50% speed when engraving glass, depending on your wattage. And I'm talking, say, a 60 watt. An 80 watt, you're going to be a little bit higher, 40, 50% speed. If you're doing a 30 watt, it's going to be 20 to 30% speed. So it really depends on the wattage. You can contact us specifically, and I can get you a lot more detailed once I know your system and the exact wattage you're running. What advantages of the laser, of taking the laser out of focuses? That's a great question. The advantages are not good at all. I do not recommend taking the laser out of focus with glass at all. Glass is one of the most sensitive materials there is to focus. And if you deviate focus at all, you're going to get flaking and chipping and fracturing onto that glass. In fact, it's so much so that even if a pane of glass is thicker on one side versus the other, you may start to have chipping and flaking. So focus is not something you want to play with glass. You want to make certain that it is fully in focus and as accurate as possible. So much so I've had wine glasses that I had a case and each diameter was a little bit different. Some worked and some didn't, just because the diameter was off on one portion of them and another. So focus is very, very important. You can't play with it. There's no deviation. And if you do, you're going to find you have chipping and flaking when it comes to processing that glass. Next question, air assist, yes or no? On glass, not necessary. Air assist is not necessary unless for some reason you're using like a 1.5-inch lens and trying to maybe engrave depth into it. You might get a little bit of haze or residue that hits the optic. But in most cases, especially on the rotary, you don't want to use air assist and you want to take your cone off because it'll interfere. And in most cases, I don't recommend using air assist when processing glass with a laser. Let's see, next question. Will you be doing a virtual workshop on acrylic when engraving in the future? Anything is possible. Right now, I think our next course is fabric, but everything is possible. We will keep that in mind, and the more comments we get on specific topics will, of course, help us determine which ones the next ones may be. Okay, would stuff the glass with wet paper towel in the interior help cool the result, or does that have to be on the surface of the etching? It is on the surface of the etching. Once you're putting it on the interior, it's not going to help anything. It won't dissipate the heat at all. The goal with the wet paper towel on the outside of it is you're basically keeping the fracturing effect from affecting the glass as much. And so it is stuck to the outside of it, whether it be a wet paper or a wet paper towel. This process is kind of messy and it's a pain to set up, but you do get a slightly brighter, wider effect, and it can help you in some case, but it does need to be on the outside. Next question we have here. What's the best Trotec machine? Well, I mean, that's personal preference. It really depends on the size and parameters and speeds that you need. My personal preference right now is the Speedy 400, just because it is the fastest system we have. But it comes down to personal preference, how big of a room you have, what size you want to use, what speed you need to do. All Trotec machines are outstanding. And so work with your sales guy or salesperson or your local distributor in your area to kind of outline the best system for your solution. All right, what do we got next? How can we follow up on these workshops? Will this be posted afterwards? Yes, that's another great question. This seminar will actually be posted on YouTube. So you can go to Trotec's YouTube channel, and I suggest you subscribe so you can keep up with this. All these questions will also be on there. If you ask them later, we will continue to follow up, but it will be posted on our YouTube channel under Trotec USA. Make sure you pick the right Trotec channel because there's a lot of different Trotec divisions. So this will be on the Trotec USA YouTube channel, and in future seminars will also be there, as well as anybody on our mailing list. If you've received it now, you will always get an invite to future seminars. Please do a photo engraving workshop soon. Well, I've already got one on our YouTube channel. If you go take a look at our YouTube channel, I have a 1-hour seminar on doing photographs with the CO2, with the Trotec laser systems. So take a look at that, and if you have any questions, just let us know. Any advice for doing full wraps on pint glasses? Diameter varies, so the taper makes it difficult. That is a great question. It can be difficult when doing a 360-degree rotation around something like a pint glass. Pint glasses are tapered, so they're wider diameter at the top than they are at the bottom. So this makes it very difficult to do an exact 360-degree engraving. The reason is because the diameter is different from the top to the bottom, as you may have found. So in that case, you can angle the graphic a little bit, but it does take some trial and error by matching the angle from the top and the bottom. You can measure the top and the bottom and then put it into your design software, which will tell you how much angle to do. Then you take an average diameter rotation, which is the center point, and then put that in as your master. And then on your graphic, you would literally have that taper coming down from the top of the page to the bottom of the page that would compensate for that. It is not an easy process. It does take a lot of trial and error. The glasses have to be very consistent, and I don't personally recommend it, but it is possible. Next question, how can we follow up on workshops? Will this be posted afterwards? As I said before, yes, absolutely. Everything's going to be posted on our YouTube channel, as well as if you answer or email us with any questions, we will always make sure you're on the list. Porcelain is almost a kind of a glass. How can we laser this material with Trotec Speedy 300? Any advice? Porcelain is very similar to glass in its composites. It's a crystalline type material. It engraves very similar to glass. The halftone method works very well with it. The only drawback that I find with porcelain is the contrast tends to be low. Unless it's painted and you can pop through that paint coating, what I do suggest is go ahead and engrave it about the same settings as glass. The reaction is about the same as glass. My advice would be to, after you're done engraving it, go ahead and rub some paint colors into it to bring that contrast out, whether it be an oil-based paint or a rub and buff, and that brings that detail out, and it works just as well. Let's see, next question. Is there a chuck rotary attachment? Sorry if I stated this earlier. Yes, absolutely. We did not actually post that in the seminar. Great question. There is an available chuck that we offer for the Trotec rotary that can go into place, which gives you a 3-jaw chuck option and allow you to kind of grab those much smaller components or objects on the rotary. If you do want to interested in that, just contact your local salesperson and they can give you the details on it. Let's see, next question. I think we done. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Thanks, I always learn something, especially from these questions. All right, well, that's the least I can do. Thank you for watching. All right, I think we are, yeah, looks like we have completed. Thank you so much for watching this. If you do have continued questions, don't forget to post them below. We will continue to ask them. Looks like we have one more coming in here. Let's see, for engraving on glass, what method makes engraving the whitest, brightest? It's hard to tell from the video earlier. There's a lot of techniques for doing that. The paper towel trick tends to give a kind of a brightish effect, but it also depends on the type of glass that you're using. Some brands, some types of glass can make a difference. Focus can make a difference. It also, maybe the other thing, that whether you're using a halftone pattern or a grayscale can make a difference and make it look brighter. One thing that I've done to make it look a little brighter white is, after I've done engraving the glass, I'm going to take a little bit of white paint down into the halftone or the gradient. and I'm going to just rub it into it. It makes the overall finished engraving look brighter and white because you've added a little bit of, say, oil-based art paint, and it kind of fools the eye a little bit. And when you look close, you cannot tell that that was done. So that's a great trick to make things look a little brighter if you're not able to get it. The other thing you can do is use a 1.5-inch lens. That will help a little bit as well because it fractures at a little bit smaller diameter if you have one. But the white paint and the different lens, paper towel, those are pretty much your only tricks for getting a brighter response. A few more coming in. Oh, that's cool. Is the chuck compatible with the cone rotary? Yes, absolutely. The chuck is compatible with all of our rotaries. There's a little plate that you would buy that allows you to screw it on so that you can use the 3-jaw chuck, whether you're using the cone rotary or the roller rotary. It's the same rotary for all 3 options. The cones, the rollers, and the chuck can be placed onto any Trotec rotary. What's the best setting for the Speedy 100 45 watt? On glass, I would say about 30% speed at 100% power, 500 DPI, and run your graphic at 70%, 70 to 80% grayscale. You should get a decent result on it. Again, if you have a 1.5-inch lens, use that, or a 2-inch lens, and you should be good. You may need to play with it a little bit depending on the type of glass, the effect that you're looking for it, but that's going to be a good range for you. Will this be stored on YouTube to watch later? The answer is absolutely yes. Please subscribe to our Trotec USA YouTube channel, and you can watch this at any time. It's going to be searchable. It will always be there, so you can reference to this at any time. Next question. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I appreciate you watching, and please keep in touch with us for future seminars. We're in crazy times right now, so this is a great outlet to continue your education during these times. Got any more questions? Thank you. Is there a way to troubleshoot power or speed settings? Power and speed settings are kind of a trial and error process. It's not really a troubleshoot. The goal is to kind of figure out the best settings, playing with power and or speed. When it comes to glass, which is our topic today, typically I will always run glass at full power. Unless you're doing really sensitive or strange applications, I'm going to run it at full laser power, and then I'm going to adjust my speed up and down until I get the right setting. It may take some trial and error. I do suggest maybe using the color palette and color mapping so that you can pick several colors at once and then put them all at different percentages of speed and then run them all side by side. So you're not making a change, watching that change, making it one at a time. That's what the color palette's for. If you're not sure how to do that, I have another little seminar I can send you. Just contact us and we can get that to you for adjusting settings. Let's see, next question. Can we laser engrave stainless steel water bottles? Stainless steel water bottles, kind of off topic for glass, but yes, of course we can. You can engrave on stainless steel, but not directly. You're going to either have to do it with the fiber laser, or you're going to have to use the metal marking compounds such as Thermark, Surmark, or Laser Bond, which will be sprayed onto the metal, and then the laser will actually fuse the metal into the surface of that metal, producing contrast, and then you wash the remaining material off to produce a metal mark. That's the best way on a CO2. Unless you have a fiber laser, then yes, directly can be marked. Next question. How do we get on the email list? I saw on your Instagram. We'll be in contact with you. I'd have to actually check with our marketing team. I'm sure if you have signed up for this course, you will now be on our email list for future courses. So if you just kind of joined us on YouTube, post it online or click the comments, and then our marketing team will get back to you to make sure that you're on the list for future events like this. Let's see, next question we got coming in. Looks like we're all done. See if we have any other questions coming in. Looks like Looks like that's it. Well, I appreciate everybody for watching so much. This again will be posted on there. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then we will keep you in touch with it. Make sure you get on the list for future events. And I appreciate everyone watching this event, and you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you.